and welcome to this week's episode. Today is going to be a good old-fashioned solo episode. If you have been around for a long time, you might remember that for the first year or so, almost all of these episodes were solo recordings of just me. And they were also really short. The episodes were like 5 minutes and they were twice a week. So the style and format of the podcast has changed over the years, but I thought I would do a nice solo episode. And today I am sharing ways that you can find free money in your balloon business. I think there is so much emphasis and education around the idea of making more money. And sometimes there's already money waiting for you in your balloon business. You just have to find it. So we're going to talk about like investing strategies, credit card points, all the things that I have kind of used to optimize my balloon business to get a little bit more juice from the squeeze. So let's take a quick break and then get right into this week's episode. Quick pause, because if you're running a small business and you feel like your brain is holding open 1,000 tiny tabs, this is for you. One of the biggest shifts that I've made in my business and that I've seen successful decorators make over and over is moving from doing everything manually to having a real system behind the scenes. That's why 17 Hats is our exclusive YouTube sponsor for 2026. 17 Hats puts your inquiries, contracts, invoices, questionnaires, emails, and workflows all in one place, so you're not chasing clients, forgetting follow-ups, or reinventing the wheel every single time someone books. Instead of asking, did I send that and what comes next, your business just works. The best part, it doesn't make your business feel more robotic. It actually frees you up to do things that you are meant to do, like be creative, work with clients, spend time with your family, and all with less stress. If you're ready to stop duct taping systems together and start operating like a real business, head to 17hats.com to check it out. Once you have a system, everything else gets easier. All right, let's jump back in. Okay, so the first strategy at finding free money in your balloon business is utilizing credit card points. And if you have ever gotten out of debt or taken any sort of financial training, a lot of people are very anti credit cards. I actually didn't have a credit card until I was probably 30, maybe even older. Like, I thought credit cards were the devil. I just thought like credit cards are stupid and people pay interest and it's a risk and all these things. But if you are financially savvy, if you have the money to pay your credit card off in full every month, there's actually a lot of benefits to having a credit card, particularly when it comes to running a business. So I only have one credit card. It's the Chase. Let me actually get it out. I have it right here. It is the Chase Inc. business card. It's free. You can sign up online if you have a business account and they'll just send it to you. So it's very easy to get. I don't know if it's like the best one, but again, it was simple to get. I was able to log on to Chase and apply for the credit card and get it in like 2 days. So I essentially treat my credit card like a middleman. It's just like a placeholder. So anytime I buy anything for my business, I put it on the credit card, and then at the end of the month, I pay it off in full. So I have the money to pay for the things I'm buying, but by putting it on the credit card first, I am acquiring points. And for the longest time, I kind of rolled my eyes at points, and I thought, like, I don't really know what points are. I don't travel a lot. It doesn't feel worth it. The cash back is like pennies on the dollar. Like, I don't really care. I'm just going to run my business with cash. And I did that for a long time, and you can do that. But even though I don't travel a lot, I probably travel once or twice a year, and I'm able to take those points, and I haven't paid for a flight in probably 5 years. So if you go to like one balloon convention a year, your credit card points just from using your customers' money to buy their products, that racks up enough points that you can probably fly for free. And a lot of times when you get a new credit card, the first dollar you spend gives you like some crazy bonus 40,000 points unlocked. So sometimes using the card for the first time unlocks like a treasure trove of points that if you have a trip coming up, you can fully pay for that using credit card points. And that's a lot of money. That's like flights are usually $600 or $700. I know I go to Float every time it happens. I go to Balloon Boss Summit. I'm going to IBC in Miami. I travel, I think more than I think for business, and I never pay for those flights because I used credit card points. So the way to kind of break this down even further is thinking your customers are paying you for their service and you are buying their balloons with their money. So you're doing that anyway, but by putting it on a credit card, by creating like a little middleman, you're racking up those points almost just like as a pass through holding mechanism. So I'm using my customers' money to buy my supplies and paying it off with the credit card. So it's like free money that is happening just because instead of buying stuff with cash, you're putting it on a credit card. So I was really late to the credit card game. Some people are super savvy and like have transfer points and they can use multiple cards and all the things. I keep it super simple. I just have that one business card. I also think having a credit card makes my bookkeeping really simple because every single expense goes on that credit card. Like I know where they all are if I ever need to go back and look and see. Also, if I have to go make a return somewhere, I know that I put that I purchased it with that credit card. So it just makes everything a little bit simpler. And then getting the points is a nice little bonus. All right. The next super simple free money tactic that I've started utilizing is a high yield savings account. So you're not going to find something like this at Chase or like a big bank. The reason that these high yield savings accounts exist is because they're usually through online only banks. They save all the money of having the brick and mortar and all the tellers and all of the in-person expenses. They're online only. And because of that, they can pass some of those kickbacks to us. Or, I mean, they're maybe just incentivizing us to use their banks, but they are regular banks. They're not going to take your money. They're not scammy. The bank that I use is called CIT, and they have a high yield savings account that's up to 4%. So if you have a lot of money sitting in your savings account, your bank account, I with my business, there are months that I'll have up to $30,000 just sitting in a checking account because everyone paid, and over the next few months, I'm going to have to pay all that money out on payroll or buying things. And so there are these big influxes of cash that are just sitting in your business account doing nothing. So if you switch what account that is, if you switch that to a high yield savings account, that money can be sitting there and making 4% annually, which is a lot of money. Like if you have $100,000 sitting in the bank, you're making $400 a year for free for nothing. I know that's way more than you would be making in a regular, let's say Chase again. I think I get like 1 penny of interest monthly in my savings account. The other thing that's nice about a savings account is that you can just transfer that money out whenever you want. It's not like a CD where it's like locked in there. There's certain savings accounts where like you're committing to keeping your money in the bank for a certain amount of time and you can't touch it. And that's how you get higher interest. With a high yield savings account, the money is free to use. You can take it out, you can put it in, the balance can go up, it can go down. It's fully accessible and it's fully yours. And just by letting it sit there, you can make a lot of money. Or if you're like me and you have like a tax account that all the money is just being saved to pay taxes, that is a great account to have in a high yield savings account because the money, it's like not even your money, right? It's tax money that you owe to the government, but you're not going to pay that until the end of the year. So you could put that money, that lump sum, let it sit in a high yield savings account, and you're making a pretty large percentage just for letting it sit there. The hardest part is setting up the high yield savings account. It's just a matter of sitting down and doing it. I mean, you don't need to go anywhere because these banks are all online. I think SoFi, SoFi, is another pretty reputable online bank that has pretty good rates for high yield savings accounts. But, utilizing that, when you think 4%, imagine how much money that is. Like if we raised our prices 4%, that's a pretty big bump in income. So if you just have money sitting there doing nothing, you can essentially turn it into like a little money making machine if you just transfer it into a high yield savings account. Okay, similar but a little bit more complicated and much more long term is to open a retirement account. If you are self-employed and you don't work anywhere, there's no HR, there's no 401k where they're contributing to your retirement, there's no pension. We have to take care of ourselves. And one of the ways that you can do that is by opening a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. So, unlike the other strategies that are a little bit more rewarding in the now because they actually like give you points or they give you money that you get right now, Roth IRAs and IRAs are super boring and super long term. You're not going to touch this money until you're probably 65, and that is not fun. It is not sexy. And for a lot of people, it's not super motivating. But that is where you're going to make real money. That is true investing. If you find it overwhelming to do yourself, which you can do on like um, what's the one? Vanguard is a really easy app to set up your own account, but you can also go to a financial planner and they can get you set up with a Roth IRA or an IRA for usually like a couple hundred or a couple $1,000s as a starter. And then each year there's a max. I think for the Roth, you can only put in like 70, maybe it's like $8,000 a year. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not like tens of thousands of dollars. You don't have to be a millionaire to open one of these accounts. And the point is that it is for regular people because you can squirrel away a little bit of money each year and then it's actually invested into the stock market and it will grow. So the beauty of these accounts is compound interest. And if you put in, let's say $100 today and then you don't touch it because it's growing and then the growth is growing and then that growth is growing. It's like this big snowball that is going to accumulate. And when you retire, you're going to have a nice fat retirement payout waiting for you. So that is one of the ways that you're making free money because what you put in is way less than what you are going to take out. It's something that I think every business owner should look into because there is no pension waiting for you when you retire. You're probably going to be very lucky to sell your balloon business for much of anything. And it is definitely not going to be enough to retire on in one big lump sum. So I am a strong believer that you should retire comfortably and when you are still able. Like I think there's nothing worse than watching people work when like their body just isn't able to work, especially in our industry doing balloons. It's a really physically difficult job. I don't want to be in a position that I'm having to climb on a ladder when I'm like 75 years old and, at risk of getting really, really hurt. Like that to me, I have failed if I've put myself in that position. So I am trying to, make that extra money off of stock market investments. So I make sure that every year I'm able to pay myself enough for my business to have additional to invest. And I'm not going to go deep into a SEP IRA, but if you are truly self-employed, if you don't have any employees, a SEP IRA is like the next level up. And I think the max that you can contribute into that is like it's a ton. It's like, I mean, there's no way I will ever have enough money to max out that account. But that actually has another benefit because it brings down your taxable income as the business owner. So there are a lot of strategies that you can use to kind of take the little bit of money you have now, put it into a tax account, and then grow it so that you have a lot of money when you retire. Okay, so let's go from what is the most complicated strategy that I will share to the least complicated strategy, which is using the balloons that are on your shelf. So finding free money, in my mind, it's like money that's already there that I'm just not utilizing. So, right, like credit card points. That's something that if I do nothing, I'm not going to get those. If I do the bare minimum, I'm just getting free money from these rewards. Same thing with the balloons that exist on your shelves. I feel like we are really not the most organized sometimes because a lot of us are really creative. We started balloons because we loved making things. We love working with our hands and keeping like tight inventory and spreadsheets. And like that's the stuff that isn't as fun. But I think that's where there's a lot of hidden money. So if you know what balloons you have and you use those balloons, you're going to get so much more profit out of every sale. So if I am going to talk to someone and they want purple and green balloons but they really want like pastel matte lilac as their purple and they want shamrock green as their green. Okay, but what if I have a different pastel ish purple on my shelf? And what if I have, spring green, right? That's an old Qualitex color and I literally still have it. I want to take away whatever options they have to pick all the colors in the world and redirect them to the balloons that are actually on my shelf because I've already paid for those. So when I go out and use them, it's like getting 100% back. That's my girl math. But like those balloons are bought, they're paid for. I order them for something else. They're on my shelf. So if I'm able to use them and then take money in exchange, that's like getting 100% profit versus having to go out and order those very specific colors. Sometimes I know I've been really guilty of doing that like I don't think it through. And by the time I order all the specific colors in all the specific sizes, I'm hardly making any money on the job. Another area where you have balloons on the shelf that you can turn into money is foils. You never order one foil. You always order two. You need a backup and then you don't use the backup. So then you have like a random soccer ball and a random football and a number two and some weird, Halloween balloons. I think if you are aware of what's on your shelf, you're much more likely to sell those things. So you could do something as aggressive as doing like cash and carry bouquets where you're actually creating the bouquet ahead of time and people are coming to your studio or your retail shop and taking what you have. Like that's what Party City did. That's what Michael's does. They have pre-made graduation balloons. They have pre-made Christmas bouquets. They have pre-made birthday things where people can just come in versus anytime you have to order more balloons, you're going to end up with more on your shelf and more kind of like wasted money. If you look at every bag of balloons as a $20 bill, think of any time you use one of those, you get to take that $20 bill and put it in your pocket versus anytime you order a bag of balloons, you're putting, I don't know, maybe like $5 in your pocket. So I think framing your business around what balloons you have, whether that is allowing people to choose off a really narrow color chart for your latex or sometimes strategically selling the things that you already have. I've done this recently. I had a job where I needed to do a full ceiling fill of gold orbs. And of course I over ordered. So I have tons of gold orbs. So I will add those as filler or as an add-on. I know I have tons of those. Same thing with Christmas balloons. Like I have just like an overstock of Christmas balloons. And I know that anytime I can add those into garlands, it costs me nothing. So I already have those. They're never going to go bad because they're foils, but I know that I have this huge stock of holiday decor. Sometimes that actually is the problem is we just don't know what we have. So I think getting organized is kind of like another strategy to finding free money. Sometimes you're ordering balloons you literally already have because you just can't find them. So I have all of my balloons on shelves, sorted by color and then size. And because they're visible to me, I'm rarely ordering things that I already have. So you really want to eliminate the duplicates. Okay, let's go into our next strategy, which is along the same lines, but a little bit even more frugal. And this is reusing the balloons themselves. So, number one, know what you have and sell those balloons. Number two, resell existing balloons. I used to think this was really gross. I used to think like, oh, that's shady and like someone's already paid for those. So, like, how am I going to have someone else pay for them? But the thing is, like, balloons don't necessarily go bad. Like, yes, if you put balloons outside in the sun and then you try to resell those to someone else, that to me, that feels like you're cutting corners, like the quality isn't there. But we've all had those corporate jobs where they want, blue and white balloon columns in their foyer for literally one afternoon, and you go back and get them and they look perfect. And then 2 days later, you have an organic garland that's mostly blue and white. It's crazy not to reuse those balloons, especially if you're using high quality balloons. Nothing has happened to them. They are not, they haven't gone bad. And now with High Shine, you can really, really shine those balloons up with a little bit of spray and they look better than when you first inflated them. I just had a job that I did in Arizona and it was really hot. It was 105 degrees and they actually had balloons outside and black was one of the main colors. So I was worried that they weren't going to last and I knew for sure they weren't going to look good. So I put them outside and they oxidized within 30 seconds. But then I needed to use those same balloons at like a second event. And I was able to bring them inside and spray them with high shine, and they looked so good. So, that little bit of money that you can spend on high shine and utilize it the way it's supposed to be used, like as a tool, and you can bring those balloons back to life. You can save so much money reusing balloons. So sometimes that is within the same event, right? Like you're just shining them up so you don't have to remake something. You can actually charge for a refresh and instead of bringing more balloons and redoing something, you can spray it with high shine and maybe add some starburst foils and make it look as good as new, but you've charged for that service. Or if things line up and you happen to have jobs with the same colors, you can actually resell the same balloons. I also think that financially that's a benefit to us, but I think environmentally it's actually responsible. If you have blue and white balloons in your studio and you have a job that requires blue and white balloons, why are you going to pop the first set so that you can reinflate a second set? Now, as a professional, you know when balloons are past their prime. I'm not telling you to like deliver hot garbage to people, but there are times, and you've had this happen, that the balloons are as good as they first were when you inflated them 2 days ago, and you can repurpose them and deliver them to someone else. I also like to do this with any donations that I do. I don't donate a ton, but I have been more aggressive about when I do donations, taking balloons that I have recovered from jobs that are complete and repurposing them so that they are getting reused balloons. Because when I'm creating something for a donation, I am paying for those balloons. I'm paying for someone to inflate the balloons. I'm paying for my time to go deliver the balloons. And then I have someone who strikes for me now. So I'm paying for them to go and take down the balloons. So to say that it's free, just like isn't true. There is an expense to donating. So if I can at least minimize the cost of the balloons and the cost of inflating the balloons, so I'm really just donating my time for the installation, then I feel a lot better about that donation. So reusing balloons. And in this same category, definitely reusing foils. So starbursts, we get those back as often as possible, those little cones, and you tie them together. I love starbursts because they really fill out a design. They can kind of fill holes. They add a little bit of sparkle and they last forever. And if they do start deflating, which I find they really never do, you can add another puff of air. But starbursts, we've had some in the shop that have been there for 9 months. We have all different colors. It's nice to be able to just grab them and throw them on things, and they're pre-inflated. So we never ever pop starbursts. I'm not going to go back to a job just to retrieve starbursts, but by all means, if they are on an arch, if they're on a column, everyone knows that we don't pop those. We cut them off, we put them in bags, and we store them. And then there's people who aren't limited on space who put all of their foils in bags and store them out of the way. And you can always add more air to foils and reuse those indefinitely. So anytime you can reuse, you're helping the planet and you are helping find that little bit of free money that otherwise would have just gone into the garbage. Okay, next free money strategy. And this one is newer for me. I mean, not brand new, but over the last 2 or 3 years, I have started introducing more and more rentals. And rentals truly are like free money. Like once you make that initial investment on whatever the item is, every time it rents, it is 100% profit minus your time, right? What like the only expense to a rental item is the time delivering and setting up. So I have marquees and they were a huge upfront investment, but now that they're paid off, every time I rent marquees, I am making probably 95% profit on those items. Yes, there's maintenance. Yes, there's replacement costs. Yes, there's the time to deliver, but there's no material. So, like when you order balloons, you're ordering the balloons, you are paying for someone to inflate, or you are using your time to inflate. You're having to go install them. If there's outdoor decor with balloons, you're nervous they're going to pop. Like, obviously, I love balloons. I'm a full time balloon company. But by introducing rentals like hard goods into the balloons, I have seen so much additional profit. So I have marquees, I have backdrops. I started offering fringe, mostly walls, like fringe backdrops. I have the, arched hard panel Chiara walls, the double panels, and, some other little things, but primarily just those. Like, I don't have huge, rental inventory. I don't have, like, furniture or chairs or tables. I don't have any of that. I just have decor pieces, but every time I'm going to purchase something, I try to calculate what the purchase price is and how long it'll take to pay it off. Ideally, I like to pay it off the first time. So if you are hemming and hawing about a backdrop and it's going to cost you $300 and you know you can rent it for $300, get it. Get it and then rent it. That first time around, you won't make any money, but then the second time around, you're going to make almost 100%. So rentals, if you don't have any and you have the space, and again, my rentals aren't big. Like, I don't have big wood props. I have collapsible, fringe walls that break down to nothing and like little mini pipe and drapes. The marquees take up a substantial amount of space, but that was like a pivot that I decided to do in my business. That's almost like a second business, really. But rentals can be really, really profitable. And once you pay them off, it is it is like free money over and over and over. And I also find that rentals are a lot easier to outsource. It's a lot easier to send someone to set up marquees or a fringe wall than it is to do a balloon installation. There is just a lot of finesse and learning to balloons, but rentals, pretty much they are what they are, and you can add them on. And the same people ordering balloons are usually interested in rentals as well. So I have had really good luck with rentals, and I love pushing them because they are so profitable. And you don't have to be great at math or an accountant to understand why. Like I said, how much did it cost you to buy? Keep track of it until you pay it off. And then everything else is just like free money minus your delivery expense and time. Okay, this next tip is a little bit more advanced, and it is also not something I would recommend until you yourself are financially in a good spot. But this is something you can do to help your kids get financially in the right spot. And that is setting up one of those investment accounts for them. So I talked about the Roth IRA and how you can fund that with money that then grows and you get like free money because you're invested in the stock market. You can do the same thing for your children, and you can do that for like very, very young children. So you can have, for example, my 6-year-old, I am planning to put her on payroll this year because she pops my balloons and she sorts the mismatched balloons. So every time I go on a job, I bring a few extras and then they end up in like a big bin of, you know, random balloons. And she is old enough and capable to sort those balloons and put them back into their bins. She also loves popping balloons. She puts on her little headphones and she pops them. So she actually has like a legitimate job. So I'm going to put her on payroll and pay her a salary, reasonable. I'm not going to pay her 100 grand to pop balloons, but I'm going to put her on salary. But then because she has earned income, she can open one of those Roth IRAs. That's the caveat to a Roth. It has to be earned income. It can't be like a gift that someone gives you. So typically people don't open these until they're working, until they have a job, right? Until they're in their 20s. But by having your 6-year-old open one and kind of helping them fund it with their earned money, they are making that same free money, right? They're earning in the stock market from 6 until 65. And the amount of growth over 60 years with compound interest in a Roth IRA is incredible. Like, if you help your kids from the ages from like 6 to 10 fund a Roth IRA, there is a chance that just that little bit, if they never touch it again, that they will have millionaire status by the time they retire. Granted, when they're 65, a millionaire won't be what it is today, but still, every little bit helps when you have that much time for growth. So that is like building generational wealth. And again, I don't recommend worrying about that until you yourself are taken care of. There's a lot of people that are like, you're crazy. I can't even make payroll next week. I'm not going to pay my 6-year-old. Fair enough. But that is a strategy that I'm planning to use this year so that my kids can hopefully benefit from some of that free money mentality in my balloon business, but not for many, many years from now. All right. And then the final strategy, this one's really simple. but something I'm really guilty of, that is returning items that you don't want. And there is so much free money to be found, not only in your business, but probably in your house. You buy things at the store, it doesn't fit, and then you never take it back. You order something on Amazon, it's not right, but you don't want to jump through the hoops of returning it. So I probably have like $100 of store returns upstairs in my kitchen right now between swimsuits that don't fit and patio cushions that don't work and balloons that came too late. Go through the energy and the effort to do your returns, especially because a lot of times online they like won't even make you return it. I don't know. I ordered an outfit that I thought was going to be like a work uniform for the summer, and it was just too short. Like it was like a little tennis dress, and it was too short. I wasn't going to wear it on the job. So I went online and I tried to submit a return, and they just said your card's been refunded. Keep it as a gift. And I never had to do anything. So I gave it to my niece, who's like 13. So jumping through those hoops and doing that little bit of effort to actually complete your returns and get that money back. I mean, that's literally your money that you've just like given away. Get it back, return the things that aren't a good fit or didn't arrive on time or you don't want anymore or you're never going to use. There are so many unopened, unused things that are just like literal cash sitting around your house. That's another strategy of why I like to use the same credit card for everything, because then when I go back and do the return, I always have the credit card that I purchased it on instead of having to look for receipts and figuring out that. I have spray paint that I have to take back to Home Depot. I have bolts that I bought that I never use. I have so many odds and ends that I purchased for projects or for my business, or like I said, just around my house, that going and taking one morning to do all those returns, you'll leave with like $100 in hand. And then the secret is don't go out and spend that $100 like I like to do. That's totally my girl math. I'm like, oh, it's free. I already spent the money. So now it's like free money. I'll just go shopping. But I hope some of those tactics help. We work so hard in our businesses that it really sucks to see hundreds of dollars slipping through the cracks, or these opportunities that just by kind of changing your workflow a little bit, like putting something on a credit card instead of a debit card, could get you a free round trip flight to Disney World if that's what you want. So, these are my strategies. I know there's more out there. I love talking about stuff like that because again, we work so hard. I want me and you to get every penny that we can out of our businesses. All right. That's it for this episode. I will see you next week.